The afternoon sun beat down on the cracked asphalt like an oven. Heat waves shimmered above the road, making the distance blur like a dream. 10-year-old Maya Johnson tugged at her faded backpack, sweat trickling down her temple as she walked. The long road home from school, her sneakers were worn thin, her shirt was too big, and her colorful braids stuck to her neck, but her eyes sparkled with something rare sharpness, curiosity, and a quiet confidence far beyond her years. Up ahead, she noticed a sleek red car pulled over to the side of the road. The hood was popped open like a mouth gasping for air, and standing beside it was a man in a sharp gray suit, pacing back and forth with his phone pressed tightly to his ear. Even from a distance, Maya could hear the frustration in his voice. "I don't care what it costs. Just get the tow truck here," he barked, wiping sweat from his brow. "I've been stuck here for 2 hours. I have a meeting with the governor in less than 3. Maya hesitated. Her Aunt Renee always told her not to talk to strangers, especially not to white men in fancy suits parked on backroads 2 hours from Boston. But there was something about the man that made her stop, a desperation in his voice that reminded her of people on the edge. The kind of edge she'd seen too often in her short life. She glanced at her backpack, which held more than just books. Inside was the small beat-up metal case her Uncle Leon had given her, a basic car repair kit. "Every girl should know how to fix what's broken," he always said. Maya believed that. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, her feet crunching on the gravel. "Excuse me, sir," she called out, her voice small but steady. "Need help with your car?" The man turned, startled. He looked her over, his expression shifting from annoyance to disbelief. A little black girl in oversized clothes, no taller than the car's side mirror, was offering help. "That's very kind of you, sweetheart," he said, clearly trying to be polite but not hiding his doubt. "But this is a high-performance Shelby GT 500 Mustang. I need a real mechanic." Maya shrugged and walked closer anyway. "My uncle's a mechanic, has his own garage. I help him on weekends. I know a thing or two." Before he could object, she had already set her bag down and peered into the engine. Her eyes scanned the parts with the same ease she used when reading a book. She leaned in and touched a hose gently with her fingers. "When did it start overheating?" she asked, like it was the most normal thing in the world. The man blinked. "About 40 minutes ago. Then the engine died." "Did you smell anything sweet? Like syrup?" He paused. "Yes, actually." "How'd you know?" "Coolant leak," Maya muttered, pointing to a tiny puddle beneath the car. "That's why it overheated." He watched her work, unsure what to say. She moved with ease, using her small fingers to check connections and reach spaces he hadn't even noticed. There was something oddly familiar about her. Maybe it was the way she squinted thoughtfully, or how focused she was, as if the entire world disappeared except for the problem in front of her. "What's your name?" he asked suddenly. Maya Johnson." She offered her hand, now slightly smudged with grease. He shook it slowly, his own clean hand trembling slightly. "Andrew Whitaker." Her hand was small and warm. As she pulled it back, tucking a braid behind her ear, something glittered in the sunlight, a ring on her finger. Antique gold, emerald green, wrapped loosely in thread so it wouldn't slip off. Andrew's breath caught in his throat. The world seemed to pause. That ring, that exact ring, a piece of antique jewelry with a crescent-shaped flaw in the emerald. A ring he had promised to a little girl named Maya, more than a decade ago. At an orphanage, before everything went wrong, his chest tightened. "Where did you get that ring?" he asked, voice low, almost afraid of the answer. Maya glanced at it, brushing her thumb over the stone. "It was my mom's, Diana. She passed away last year. Said it was a symbol of a promise." She never explained more. Andrew took a step back, his thoughts racing. Diana, that name too. She had been a nurse, a quiet woman with sad eyes and gentle hands. She used to work at the Little Angels orphanage, the same orphanage his father's company had acquired under financial distress. The one that mysteriously shut down right after, the same place where he'd once met a bright-eyed girl with curious fingers and a broken toy car in her lap. Maya, he repeated, almost to himself. She looked up at him puzzled. Are you okay, Mr. Whitaker? He nodded slowly, covering his shock with a smile. Yes, just. Thank you for helping me. She pulled a bottle of water from her bag and poured some into the coolant reservoir. This should get you to the next town, but you'll need a proper fix soon. He stared at her in silence for a moment, then opened the passenger door. Can I give you a ride home? Maya looked uncertain. It's just a few minutes down the road. It's the least I can do. After a brief pause, she nodded. She climbed in, placing her backpack between them. As they drove, Andrew asked casual questions: where she went to school, how long she'd lived here, who she lived with now. With my Aunt Renee and Uncle Leon, she said. After Diana died, have you always lived here? He asked, gripping the wheel a little tighter. Since I was 3. Before that, I don't remember much. Just something about an orphanage. I think it was called Little Angels. Andrew's foot nearly slipped off the gas. Little Angels. Are you sure? She nodded. Why? He didn't answer right away. As they pulled into her driveway, Maya reached for the handle. Thanks again. But before she left, Andrew handed her his business card. If you ever need anything at all, please call me. She smiled politely and got out. He watched her until she disappeared into the house. The ring still glittering on her hand, Andrew sat there for a long time before reaching for his phone. Ramirez, he said when the line picked up. I need you to dig up everything on a girl named Maya Johnson, and I need you to reopen the Little Angels file. Inside the house, Maya set down her backpack and headed to the workshop in the backyard. The scent of oil and old metal welcomed her like an old friend. Her Uncle Leon looked up from a bench, wiping his hands. Fix anything today? He asked. She grinned. A Shelby Mustang. His eyebrows shot up. You're kidding. Nope. Belonged to a man named Andrew Whitaker. Leon's hands froze. His face paled. He turned toward the doorway where Aunt Renee stood, clutching a kitchen towel in her hand. He saw the ring, Maya added casually. That's when Renee stepped forward, her voice tight. Maya, remember, we told you one day we'd explain everything about your mum. About the ring. The girl nodded, confused. I think that day is today. That night, under the dim light of the living room lamp, Renee handed her a yellowed envelope. Maya held it gently, fingers tracing the edges. Written in her mother's careful handwriting was one sentence. For Maya, when the past finds her, she opened it, unaware that across town, Andrew was staring at a folder with her name circled in red. A file marked special case. A note. That read, do not contact, reassigned. Subject holds exceptional mechanical potential, HW to be notified. Andrew closed the file slowly. His hands trembled. And somewhere, in a dark SUV parked near Maya's school, 2 men in suits watched her from behind tinted windows. That's her, one of them said. The girl with the ring, Mr. Whitaker Sr. wants her found. Immediately. What none of them knew was that Maya was already beginning to unlock a past that would bring down everything they'd built. And she was just getting started. The air in the living room felt heavier than usual as Maya held the letter in her hands. Her fingers trembled slightly, but her eyes stayed focused. She had read the words over and over again, trying to make sense of them. Aunt Renee and Uncle Leon sat nearby, quiet and uneasy, as if waiting for her reaction. She said someone from the Whitaker family might show up one day. Renee finally spoke, her voice low. She made us promise to give you this letter if that happened. Diana. She was scared, Maya, always looking over her shoulder. Always afraid someone would come for you. But why? Maya asked, still trying to wrap her mind around it. What was she running from? Leon looked away for a moment, then cleared his throat. She worked at that orphanage, Little Angels. She told us things that didn't sound right. About how kids were being studied, tested, watched for special abilities. Some of them had talents things regular people didn't understand. Your mum thought you were one of them. I fix things, Maya said softly. That's not special. Leon shook his head. You don't just fix things, Maya. You understand them. You look at a machine, even something broken, and somehow know exactly what's wrong. That's not normal, not for someone your age. Maybe not for anyone. Maya stared down at the emerald ring on her finger. It suddenly felt heavier, like it carried more than just memories. It carried secrets. Secrets that had followed her for years. Meanwhile, miles away in a tall glass building in downtown Boston, Andrew Whitaker stared out of his office window. His thoughts were miles away. The file on his desk glared back at him. Maya Johnson, born 10 years ago. Adopted by Diana Johnson shortly before the closure of Little Angels Orphanage. Her original records were missing, redacted, or strangely misplaced. Why wasn't she listed in the final transfer logs? Andrew muttered to himself. His phone buzzed. Ramirez, his private investigator, had been busy. I dug deeper, Ramirez said on the line. Diana Johnson wasn't just any nurse. She was the one who sounded the alarm about the orphanage's practices. She went to the media, but the story was buried. Days later, she disappeared with Maya. Disappeared, Andrew repeated. Changed names, moved towns, went off-grid. I think she knew something that scared her enough to run. Andrew's pulse quickened. And the other children? The ones from the orphanage? Many were adopted. Some went missing, and a few, well, I found names linked to private research labs that received donations from Whitaker Enterprises. Andrew's stomach turned. The deeper he dug, the more it smelled of something rotten, his own family's legacy. Bought with silence and secrecy. Across town, Maya sat at the small desk in her room. The letter from Diana opened in front of her. The handwriting was shaky, but full of love. My sweet Maya, if you're reading this, it means they've found you. The ring I gave you holds more than memories. It holds proof. Inside the stone is a small compartment. Twist the emerald left 3 times, then press the side. Her hands moved slowly, heart pounding. When she followed the instructions, the stone clicked. A tiny chip popped out, no larger than a fingernail. She had no idea what was on it, but something told her it could change everything. The next morning, Maya didn't go to school. Uncle Leon took her to meet someone who had once been close to Diana, journalist named Marcus Hayes. He had worked for a local paper when the Little Angels story was first buried. Diana had trusted him. Marcus looked older than Maya expected, gray in his beard, tired eyes, but sharp. I remember your mother, he said gently. She was brave. She tried to blow the whistle, but no one listened. Maya handed him the chip. She left this for me. Marcus inserted it into a secure device. The files that opened made him freeze. Video recordings, scanned documents, audio files, names, dates, transactions, even footage from security cameras showing children being tested, observed, moved to different facilities. This is huge, he whispered. This could destroy Whitaker Enterprises. At that exact moment, in a conference room on the 50th floor of the Whitaker building, Howard Whitaker, Andrew's father, slammed his hand on the table. You've been poking around, haven't you? He growled at his son. Reopening old files, digging into matters that don't concern you. They do concern me, Andrew said calmly. I was part of that promise. I gave Maya that ring. I told her I'd come back. You were a child. It was nothing, Howard snapped. Andrew looked him straight in the eye. It was everything. You used those children. You closed the orphanage and buried the truth. And now, you're building luxury condos on the same land. Howard's face hardened. Billions are at stake, Andrew. You want to throw it all away for a child. Andrew didn't answer. He turned and walked out. His decision already made. The following evening, 2 men in black suits pulled up outside Maya's school again. But this time, they weren't unnoticed. Leon had followed them. He snapped photos, noted their plates, and quietly tailed them back into the city. They weren't just watching, they were preparing. They're coming for her, Marcus warned when they met later that night. They'll want to shut this down before it explodes. Maya sat still, her heart pounding. What do we do? We go public, Marcus said. But not just a news article. A full broadcast. Live. With you. Maya looked down at her hands, small, calloused, stained with engine grease. She had never done anything like this before. But then she thought of Diana. Of the other children. Of the secrets they tried to hide. I'll do it, she said. Back at Whitaker Enterprises, Howard sat in a dark office, phone to his ear. I don't care how you do it, he said. Make sure that girl doesn't say a word. The ring, the chip, everything gone. But what he didn't know was that Maya was already preparing. She and Marcus had made backup copies. They had set up a secure stream, and Andrew had contacted a federal prosecutor, handing over everything he had learned. He wasn't going to cover for his family anymore. On the morning of the broadcast, Maya stood in front of the camera, wearing a simple shirt, her braids tied back. The ring still shining on her finger. My name is Maya Johnson, she began, her voice shaking slightly. I was adopted from a place called Little Angels. What I didn't know was that my life was part of something much bigger. The screen behind her lit up with images, children playing, lab reports, documents signed by Howard Whitaker. And finally, the video of Diana running through the night with baby Maya in her arms. As the live stream started gaining thousands of viewers, the building across town shook with panic. Howard's assistant burst into his office. Double quotes, Sir, ... you need to see this. The screen filled with Maya's face as she exposed the truth, not just about herself, but about dozens of other children. About a system built on exploitation. About power being used the wrong way, and in the shadows, something else was moving, files unlocking, reporters digging, families speaking up, people asking questions that had no easy answers. Maya, barely 10 years old, had started something no one could stop. But the danger wasn't over. Not yet. In the crowd watching the stream from a distance, a man with a grey coat and dark glasses made a call. She talked, he said. Do I proceed? A voice on the other end paused. Yes, it's time. And just like that, the story Maya thought was reaching its end was only just beginning. The man in the grey coat moved through the crowded sidewalk, blending in with the commuters. His eyes locked on the building across the street, the studio where Maya Johnson had just exposed the biggest corporate scandal the city had ever seen. His orders were clear. But what he didn't expect was how quickly everything would unravel. Inside the studio, the team was still buzzing. The live stream had already hit hundreds of thousands of views. Comments flooded in, some in shock, others in support. People from all over the country began sharing stories of similar places, similar disappearances, and similar fears. Maya sat quietly on a worn leather couch in the green room, her hands still trembling. She had done what her mother couldn't. She had spoken the truth out loud. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. You did it. No matter what happens next, they can't silence you now. But Maya didn't look relieved. She looked thoughtful. There's still more, I know it. That man in the Mustang, Andrew, he said he was part of it once, and he wants to make it right. I think he can help finish what we started. As if summoned, the door opened and Andrew walked in. He wasn't in a suit anymore, just a button-up shirt and jeans, but his presence still carried weight. He gave Maya a nod and sat beside her. I saw the stream, he said quietly. My father. He's not going to take this lying down. Are you ready to go against him? Marcus asked. Andrew looked at Maya, then back at Marcus. I already have. Back at Whitaker Enterprises, Howard Whitaker was losing control. His calls were going unanswered. His legal team was panicking. A federal investigator had already been seen outside the building. For the first time in decades, the man who had built an empire from secrecy was now facing the truth, and he hated it. You need to fix this, he barked at his remaining staff. There's nothing left to fix, sir, one of them replied. The public knows. The files are verified, and your son he's turned everything over to the authorities. Howard slammed his fist on the desk, veins pulsing at his temples. But it was too late. The world was watching. Just as he was about to make one last desperate call, the elevator dinged. 2 federal agents stepped in, calm and firm. "Mr. Whitaker," one said, holding up a warrant, "you're under investigation for crimes involving child endangerment, illegal experiments, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Please come with us." He didn't fight. He didn't argue. For the first time, the man who controlled so many lives quietly stood and let himself be escorted out. Outside, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. The truth was out and it couldn't be taken back. Meanwhile, Maya returned home with Leon and Renee, greeted by neighbors who had gathered on their lawn with flowers and balloons. She was still just a little girl in their eyes, but now she was something more, a voice for those who had none. People hugged her, cheered for her, even cried. In front of her, she stood on the porch and looked out at them. "This wasn't just about me," she said gently. "This was about all of us. About truth, about fixing what's broken, not hiding it." Leon placed an arm around her. "Your mama would be proud." A few days later, Maya visited the old site where the orphanage once stood. The construction on the luxury complex had been halted indefinitely. Instead, talks were already beginning about building something new. There's something that truly served children. Andrew met her there, standing by the fence. "I thought you'd be here," he said with a quiet smile. Maya nodded. "This place. It holds too many secrets. But maybe it can hold something good now." Andrew handed her a small metal plaque. "The city council approved it this morning. They want to name the new center after someone who stood for change." She read the words engraved on it. The Johnson Center for Children Who Fix the World. Tears welled up in her eyes. "It's not just for me, it's for Diana, and all the other kids who never got the chance." Andrew placed a hand on her shoulder. "And now, they will." The weeks that followed were full of rebuilding. The company Andrew once stood to inherit was now under federal investigation. He walked away from it all and used his personal wealth to launch a new initiative focused on identifying gifted children from underserved communities without contracts, without labs, just opportunity. He called it the Prometheus Project, not to exploit talent, but to nurture it. Maya became its youngest ambassador. She helped design the first lab, taught workshops, and even got her first patent for a device that could detect leaks in car engines faster than any standard scanner. Her story inspired thousands. Schools invited her to speak. Engineers, scientists, and mentors lined up to support the kids coming through the new programs. At night, when the world quieted down, Maya would sit in the workshop behind her house, still fixing broken radios and old machines, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Because even after all the noise and headlines, she was still just a girl who loved to fix things. One afternoon, a letter arrived in the mail. No return address, just her name, in neat, elegant handwriting. Inside, a short note: "You're reminded. The world that small hands can hold great power. Keep building, keep believing." VW attached was a photo. A girl Maya had never seen, smiling with two other kids. On the back, "One of the children you helped save. There are many more." Maya looked up at the sky, the sun casting a warm glow over the neighborhood. She didn't need fame. She didn't need rewards. She had something better: proof that even a quiet act of kindness on the side of the road could start a movement. Andrew visited from time to time, no longer the man who once cared about meetings and money. Now he asked about new inventions and talked to kids about integrity, growth, and second chances. And Howard Whitaker. He faced trial, public shame, and the loss of everything he built. But justice didn't just come from a courtroom, it came from watching the empire he'd raised with fear be replaced by something far greater: hope. In the end, Maya's story wasn't about rings or money or revenge, it was about courage, about telling the truth when silence felt safer, about trusting that broken systems, like broken engines, could be taken apart, understood, and made new. As she stood at the entrance of the Johnson Center months later, watching a group of young inventors build their first robot from scratch, Maya smiled. Her story had come full circle. And yet, it was only just beginning. Because heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes, they wear grease-stained t-shirts and carry a toolkit in a backpack. And sometimes, they're 10-year-old girls who stop to help a stranger on a hot afternoon, not knowing that one small act of kindness would change the world.